it that my computer doesn't hang up. I think Snagit in the recording was using up a lot of resources. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is Jeff Scott, and welcome to this week's review. We'll be joined shortly by Sagar from SuperiorProfit.co. I talk about his tools frequently, and I'm looking forward today for him to give you sort of a brief review of what he does. I will tell you that I've never used any tools like them. Most technical analysis, well, all technical analysis has to be price and volume because that's really all you have on a chart, and maybe changes in momentum and things based upon that. He's got some things that I've incorporated now into my daily routine, and they work. I still don't know all the everything that goes into them, and maybe we'll learn a little bit about that tonight. So, as you can see, special guest. How overbought do we go? I think Sagar and I both are on the same page when it comes to this market being overbought. That said, oversold markets can get much more oversold than you would think they would get. Just think about what happened in December. And overbought markets can get a lot more overbought than you think they can get as well. And at both tops and bottoms, you don't have to have a reversal as much. Sometimes you just get some fairly aggressive sector rotation, industry group rotation. So by no means does the fact that it's overbought mean it's over. Just one more time, a couple people typing in a Y that you can see my screen and hear me. Thank you, Mike. All right, so I got just 3 or 4 slides. Then we're going to make the changeover, and then when Sagar finishes, I'll come back and we'll go through HGSI and some of my other toys and see what I think the market's going to do and what you might want to look for. How overbought do we go? As always, you know, I've got the same disclaimer every time. It's for educational purposes only. It's in the spirit of education, not investment advice. I'm a doctor, not a broker. I am independent. Nobody pays me to say good things about their tools. One way or another, I pay for them. I probably got the longest term contract on Sagar's tools as anybody in the world because I'm a crazy person. But that's a different story altogether. I want to point something out, what you may or may not know. A lot of times when person A invites person B to come onto their slot and uses their invite list, then person B pays a what's the word I would use, a commission or a percentage of what they sell to person A. In this case, I'm person A and Sagar is person B. I get 0. I'm not asking. No, if you decide to do something with Sagar and SuperiorProfit.co, God bless you. I like the stuff, and the only reason I'm introducing it is because I like the stuff and I like him, but I don't expect anything from your purchases, and I wouldn't accept it if he gave it to me, because that would make my third bullet point a lie. And trading involves risk, and you alone are solely responsible for any decisions you make. So I'm going to just review this for the 1 millionth time. You know, I started in Cancelim. I met Ian Woodward. Most of you know that story, and really became a high growth stock style investor. Ron Brown was in the audience when I was in the audience. He became Ian's partner. We've learned from others over the years like Gil Morales and Chris Katcher, who I think make Cancelim even better. And I've supplemented that with other things. George Lee, unfortunately, his March meeting, I will be in Asia, so I won't be able to attend. But I know he's got a meeting coming up in Orange County, only 12 attendees. George is a great trader, a much faster trader than I am. I'm more of a guy that has a job that likes to trade, and I'm not in the market all the time. But he's a great trader. Nonetheless, we end up finding the same stocks. We just trade them differently. Van Tharp in the upper right-hand corner, he makes it because he's really the guru when it comes to position size and money management. Most of you know my affection for John Person. He's a great trader. He's become a close friend and confidant. He's a mentor. He's a teacher. He's got some great indicators, which I'm sure I'll look at some today. And he's got some great books. If you've never read his stuff, start with the book on the left. It incorporates a lot of the basics from the yellow book and is more for us, assuming you're like me, or more of a stock investor. And then I'm going to introduce you to Sagar Nandi down in the lower right-hand corner. I talk about his tools frequently. He'll go through a few comments. I met him because one day I did a trial with his program on Metastock, and I reached out to him because I was concerned because he updates his product all the time, and I didn't think Metastock was going to be able to keep up with him. Why would I want a out-of-date version of the same product? And then I found out he had TradeStation as well, and we started talking, and I've been using his stuff and conversing with him ever since. I like his stuff, and that's why I invited him today. I have a lot of stuff. When I come back, I'll use TradeStation and Thinkorswim. Genesis is when I'm really not traveling much and I want to trade futures. It's a nice visualized platform. It has some good scanning. I know John uses it as his preferred platform in his trading room, probably partly because it's so stable. And then it's HGSI and EdgeRater, and you'll see some of the CUE tools at work. You all know the HGSI website. I'm actually playing with not just my own add-on that I've been working on with some cool stuff, but I've seen some of the things that are coming, and part of it, one of them is a chandelier stop, kind of how I use it in Thinkorswim, where I actually use it as a signal when the stock goes from a sell to a buy or a buy to sell from the chandelier perspective. Here's Sagar's website. I'm sure he'll talk much more about it. You can see the first thing to know is I think he's in Indonesia is where it's registered, so it's a .co, so not a .com. Interesting stuff on the website. And you could see his title today was also the market became more overbought. And what I do is I find this stuff on YouTube as well. There's a number of folks on YouTube whose stuff I seem to gravitate every weekend. So that's my shortest introductory thing ever. My son actually got mad at me last week. He said I should have spent less time with slides. So I am going to now try to switch this over to Sagar, who's here. And let's see if we can make this happen. Make him a host, say yes. It should hopefully come up to the top. All right, Sagar, you've got the ball. You want to do a quick sound check?
Yes. Hi, Jeffrey. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can everybody else hear Sagar? I can see your screen.
Okay, great.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Jeffrey, for the introduction. It's always my pleasure and a privilege to be able to come and speak in the same forum with you. Usually every Monday, I have a Monday morning meeting. I didn't have that today, and it is not morning, but I will use this session to go through some of the topics that I go through every week, only in much more detail. This is the only slide.
If you could speak a little louder. They said your voice is very light. You're just soft-spoken. They don't know you like I know you.
Sure. The only slide that I will go through is this one. This demonstration is for educational purposes only. It is designed to share information on superior profits trading system. The information presented here should only be used by people who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. Past performance is no guarantee of future return. Superior Profit is not an investment advisor. This session is not for any recommendation of buying or selling stock or any other instrument. Profit will have no liability for any investment decision made by its audience. That was the only slide in my presentation. Superior Profit is based in Singapore. If you have watched the movie Crazy Rich Asians, that movie was based in Singapore. Very nice place. You are most welcome to visit. Now, in today's topics, I will cover many things, and I am always worried I tend to veer off topic. So I made a list of them and I made a lot of detailed note on each of the topics. Let's start going through all of them one by one. I will go through them quickly because there are a lot of things to cover today. You may watch the recording later if you want to review them again. Look at the global markets. That is the only time I will use Metastock because I am able to open the global markets from there. I am looking at Australia market, the index AXJO using the standard weekly daily template. In the weekly chart, there was a bearish headwind signal, the possible reversal signal that led to a price drop. Then at the very bottom, there was a possible bullish reversal signal. In all our charts, green and cyan indicates bullish or on the higher side, red or magenta indicates bearish or on the lower side, and yellow is neutral. So after displaying the bullish headwind, price is steadily going up. The up move started around the same time the reversal happened in the USA market as well. This last bar is the current week's bar. It is incomplete bar, and you can see in the daily chart it is steadily going up. Today's bar is also bullish. It is above the upper boundary. So using CUE technique, we would not be buying now, but if we bought earlier, probably on this candle, we would continue to hold at least partial position. It is bullish. We distinguish between two statements. One is whether the market or the instrument is bullish and whether there is a low risk buying opportunity. In our technique, it is certainly bullish, but there is no low risk swing trade buying opportunity right now. That was Australian market. Let's look at China.
Sagar, you say there's no low risk. Is that because it's so extended?
Yes.
Okay.
In CUE systems, we always try to buy low, sell high. Usually, we avoid buying breakouts unless the breakout gives us low risk entry opportunity. If I divert a little bit, in CUE technique, we have established why three? I'm reducing the number. We have 4 trade setups. Each of the trade setups are designed for a distinct market condition. In the trending market, that is when we have higher high, higher low, for uptrending market, we have established only one trade setup. Then using the unique headwind signal, we have a setup for a reversing market. When the market goes up for a while with higher high, higher low, and the headwind signal comes, using the headwind signal in conjunction with few other signals, we can take a reversal trade. So those two are related to trending market, swing trade in the uptrending market, and then reversal trade at the end of the trend. Third market condition is a sideways market when the market goes with approximately equal higher highs. Why higher highs? Approximately equal highs and lows. Or we can apply the sideways market box trade setup, as we call it, to double tops and double bottoms also. And the last market condition is exhausting market condition when a stock drops suddenly and sharply, maybe due to earnings disappointment, or for biotech companies for drug disapproval by FDA, finds support and starts to go up. 4 trade setups, only 4 trade setups, only one for each of the 4 market conditions: trending, go with flow, reversing, headwind, sideways box, and exhausting bounce. Very different trade setups, very different market conditions, but one thing is common for all of them. That is, all of them try to catch the swing high or swing low. None of them are breakout trades. In our system, there is a scan and there is a radar for finding breakouts, but we didn't create a trade setup for that, because often they tend to be not low risk. For breakouts, our preferred technique is to let the market make a higher low after a breakout to the upside and then take a trade, which would end up being a trend following, that is a trending market trade setup. For each of these trade setups, if I click on the market or the trade setup, it will give me a checklist, entry checklist. The checklist looks at certain patterns on the daily, sometimes, as you can see on the weekly chart. This is the bull, not a deer, it's a bull. So for a bullish long trade setup, we have a number of checklists. For bearish trade setup, we have another set of checklists using the same indicators. Whoever is looking at the checklist, whether it is me, Jeffrey, or any of you, 90 to 95% of the time, all of us will come to the same conclusion. That is what we try to achieve, to make trade entry decisions unambiguous and easy to use using checklists. Why I say the checklists are unambiguous is because each of the indicators on which they are based are unambiguous in themselves. For example, the first one is saying candle color. It can be either cyan or magenta or yellow. It is unambiguous. Whoever is looking at it, candle shape, it can be hollow or long upper tail, or solid or long lower tail, upper tail, mixing up, but it is unambiguous. Whoever is looking at it. So as a whole, the checklists are unambiguous. I am diverting a bit, but it may be worth doing that. If I look at the charts, the indicators on which the checklists are based are unambiguous because there is no parameter to set. Earlier, I used to use indicators with parameters, and I had a tendency, probably like many other people, to fiddle with the parameters and also the thresholds against which the indicators were checked to make the chart align with a hypothesis that I already had in my mind. So if I was bullish on Apple, I was fiddling with the parameters to make the chart bullish. So I tried to get out of that. So we made the indicators independent of any parameter, independent of any threshold also. There is no threshold to be looked at, to be compared with. And thirdly, we also got out of checking convergence and divergence. Because again, when I started using the system for myself in the beginning, I realized sometimes I was looking at daily time frame to look for divergence. If I didn't find, I was going to weekly and trying to find divergence, convergence, and if not, I was going to hourly time frame. I didn't want that ambiguity, so we got rid of the need to check convergence, divergence as well. Another thing you will notice, every indicator in every chart template, and we have many chart templates, I have set them all up. They are all used for distinct purposes, but all the indicators in all the chart templates are looking different, and that is by design. That's why we don't even use any label on the default setup. We just look at the indicators and what they are telling, and we can instinctively react to that. That is the same template that I am using on Metastock as well. No parameter, no threshold, no need to check convergence, divergence, responding to the weeklies and dailies instinctively. That was a diversion, but let me continue. This was Australian market. I continue with China market. This is Tuesday in Asia. So we have in the daily chart, 2 candles already. The last candle is today's candle in progress. In the weekly template, that is on the left-hand side, China market has also recovered. China was one of the worst performers among all the global markets that we track, but it has recovered. Not a lot, but it has recovered. And in the daily chart, similar to AXJO, it is going up. It is above upper boundary level. And this indicator is showing that it is overbought. in the daily chart. In fact, it is overbought in the weekly chart also. That's why we will again say that it is bullish, but there is no low risk entry opportunity. Hong Kong, also owned by China. It has a separate index, Hong Kong market. Again, it declined, came to the trend line support in the weekly chart, going up steadily. Same picture, bullish, but very close to the upper boundary line. Overbought in the weekly chart. Let's look at India, Nifty 50 NSEI. This used to be the strongest, but for many weeks now, it is moving sideways. It tried to break out in the daily chart, break out of the watermark resistance, but immediately reversed with a bear release signal, meaning that it was overbought until this candle, and then the overbought condition went away. Using the false upside breakout, the bear release signal, we could consider taking a short trade right at the close of this candle that was meeting most of the conditions of the box or sideways market trade setup. As I said, that can also be applied to double tops or multi-tops. If we took a short trade at that point, our stop would be just above recent high. Entry would be at the close of that candle that displayed the bear release signal, and we would try to book profit at the other side of the sideways range. So we would have booked at least partial profit by now. It is moving sideways. In sideways market, we like to use the box setup more than the trend following setup. This is sideways, and if we look at the British market, FTSE, FTSE, it displayed a possible reversal, bullish headwind signal going up since then in the daily chart above the upper boundary level. It's overbought in daily, overbought in weekly also. So it is bullish, but we are not going to buy now because it is overbought. All the global markets that we saw so far, other than the India market, everything is overbought, not only in the daily time frame, but in the weekly time frame also. And if we look at the E-mini futures, and that would be same for the SPY ETF also, it is also overbought in the daily as well as in the weekly. So the same picture we are seeing everywhere except the India market. It is bullish but overbought. Now, though the market is overbought as a whole, S&P 500 is overbought, doesn't mean every stock is overbought. In current very bullish market, we would look for only bullish trades, long trades, and there are plenty of them. We would like to avoid shorting, and let's start going through some of them. We covered topic number 1. Now let's go to topic number 2, trades identified from top-down analysis, at least one of them, as of Friday's close. In top-down analysis, we start with CUE Edge, and here it is for the USA market. It is connected to Thomson Reuters. You can see that at the top menu. So everything I do, it can retrieve data in real time from Thomson Reuters and calculate. In CUE Edge, we have information about sector performance, in detail about the sector scorecard and heat map, in more detail the industry scorecard and heat map, and finally the stock scorecard and heat map. In the sector tab, we analyze the 11 sectors across 12 monthly review periods, and then more frequently over 10 days, 5 days, and if I open up the other columns, over 2 days and then 1 day period. During market hours, the 1 day period is calculated in real time. So during the market hours, I can see how the sectors are moving. I can double click on any of the columns to sort by them, double click again to reverse the sort order. Cyan is bullish, magenta is bearish. In all our systems, whether it is sector industry analysis, stock analysis in terms of fundamentals or technicals, cyan green is always bullish or on the higher side. Right now, energy, healthcare are strongest, real estate, utilities are weakest. I shared some of the stocks in energy and healthcare in our market roundup. Let me look at financials. It is not looking that interesting if we are looking for a buy opportunity, because the 5-day score, 1 week score is not pure cyan yet. And the pace column at the right hand side, that calculates acceleration, deceleration of the sector, that is not also cyan. Why did I choose financials then? Let me open up the recent periods. And now we can see on Friday, it is the most accelerating sector. I am always looking for this change in conditions from magenta to cyan, cyan to magenta, maybe on the daily chart, maybe on the weekly chart, maybe at the sector level or industry level. Those transition points give us very low risk buying or shorting opportunities. We can catch them early, well ahead of others. We can find a high probability low risk trades by doing that. So financials caught my attention, as it always does, because it was significantly changing color over 1-day period. As I tend to say, usually I prefer to look at the 5-day period for sector and industry analysis, because 1-day period tend to give rise to whipsaw, more noise than signal, except, and there is an exception, when I'm looking for turnarounds. If we look to the right hand side, the scores were more magenta than cyan, and on Friday it changed heavily. It is actually the most accelerating sector as of Friday. So I drill down, I can click the check mark to drill down. That will take me to the industry tab, and only the financial industries are shown now. Again, over 5-day period, I can double click to sort. None of the financial industries are looking that appealing. But if I open up the latest 2-day and 1-day scores, now we see that several industries also in financials are looking good, and many people track regional banks. So let me have a look at that. It is strong, pretty strong now relative to how it used to be a few days ago, and it is accelerating heavily. Now we can drill down. We can drill down by clicking the check mark again. We have all these regional banks in the stock tab. Therefore, in CUE Edge, we have the sector scorecard heat map, industry scorecard heat map, and stock scorecard and heat map. In the stock scorecard, we have collated the essential information in the vital tab. Usually, we will need only the vital tab. That's why we call it vital. But if I scroll to the right, we have the performance tab, growth tab for earnings and revenue growth, yearly periods and quarterly periods. Then we have some fundamental parameters, if you choose to look at them. Then some basic information. But most of the time, we are happy with the vital tab. Later on, during other webinars, I'll explain how different traders may use the other tabs from time to time. Now, if we remember, regional banks was weaker earlier. It was more magenta earlier. Now it is turning around. When that happens, I am going to look for value stocks, because the industry was weak. I expect many stocks also to be down, and now they are starting to go up, must be going up. That's why the acceleration is happening. Then I am looking for value stocks. The value stocks are identified under the valuation column by cyan color. And I can simply click this battery fully charged to get all the value stocks. These are the value stocks. I can double click on the header to sort all of them. What did I do? I looked at the sectors, found the most accelerating sector, drilled down, found the regional banks, which is accelerating and is one of the strongest industries now. I drilled down because the industry was weak for a while. I was looking for value stocks and I found this. The last step would be to go through their technical charts, and I have prepared for this session. So I have looked at the stocks already. BHLB is a regional bank which is having good valuation. If you look at these 3 columns, the yearly revenue growth, it is increasing from 9.2% to not revenue, it is the earnings growth. It is increasing from 9% to 11% to 18%. That is good. A value stock with increasing earnings growth. And if you see the revenue growth 1 year, it is also decent, pays a dividend of 3%. So I would like to look at this stock using technical charts. So I will go to the CUE Elite, that is the technical trading system on TradeStation, BHLB. I could type it, or I could come here, click anywhere on the row, click on the chart icon. Before that, let me make sure my technical trading system is selected as CUE Elite. If it was selected as CUE Global or Metastock, it would open the chart directly, but I'm going to use TradeStation for this session. So I can put it in the radar sidebar. If I can press Ctrl V. Now it is displaying me BHLB. And now just looking at the color coding, you would be able to know that this is looking good. And let me read through some of the key indicators. Why did it switch? Okay. In the weekly chart, it dropped significantly, and I was expecting some stocks, at least in regional banks, would drop because the industry was week earlier. It displayed a possible reversal signal, bullish reversal signal at the very bottom, headwind signal. Prior to that, the color was bearish, magenta, then it changed to yellow, neutral. After that, it changed to cyan, bullish. This was the earnings week. In the earnings week, it tried to go down, but ended with a long lower tail. The body was still solid, so we would say the shape was mixed. The very next week, the shape was mixed again, doji shape, big upper tail, big lower tail, small body. And after that, for the last 2 weeks, it is steadily going up. In the daily chart, it fell, tried to create a double bottom, you can say, and then going up. On Friday, it had a very long hollow candle that is bullish shape, and the color is also cyan. In the daily chart, we call it flow color because we have a trade setup called Go with flow that relies on the flow color. It gave me a flow color candle, bullish cyan. Weekly is bullish color and shape both. It broke out of what? Broke out of this watermark resistance level with very high activity. That is all looking bullish because the industry is also accelerating at the same time. So I thought it is giving a good go with flow trend following long trade setup. As I mentioned, I avoid taking or proposing taking breakouts. However, in this case, though it is breaking out of the watermark resistance, it is giving us a low risk entry opportunity. Stop would be just below recent low. We could put it there, and we could book profit once the risk distance is covered. That would be the minimum, maybe somewhere here. We wouldn't need to wait for the price to hit the declining white direction line. Now we have some other indicators also. We have something called pressure. Earlier, Dr. Jeffrey suggested to include it in CUE, Vital and Edge for the stock scorecard. So if I go to the right, we actually have a pressure calculation in Vital and Edge. Now, in the latest release of technical trading system, we have included it in the charts also. So we saw on Friday, price went up not only with heavy activity, but with very high bullish pressure. Everything bullish is green or cyan. So there are more indications that are bullish than is required in the checklist. That is a good thing. So BHLB gave us a trend following long trade setup that we could identify starting from sector, drilling down to industry, looking for value stocks, and finally looking at the technical chart. That is the top-down analysis. We like to call it 360 degrees analysis. That was topic number 2. That was top-down analysis. Now in third topic, we are going to identify some trade setup using bottom-up analysis. And let us try to do it by running a scan for trend following long trade. Why long? Because the market is bullish It was bullish 1 week ago also. So if we ran the scan for trend following long trade setup last Friday, 1 week ago actually, 8th February, then we would get several stocks. I am going to MetaStock also for this purpose because I can choose the go with flow long, that is our swing trend following long trade setup. And in MetaStock, I am able to choose the date as a past date. So I am choosing here 8th February, running it on daily chart, and I am running it on S&P 500 stocks. Let me run the exploration. No data is stored in my computer, be it for CUE Elite or CUE Edge or CUE Vital or CUE Global. Nothing is stored. So we'll give it a few seconds. I know the stock already because I prepared for it. The stock is ANET, a stock that many of you would know. Let me start plotting ANET. This is ANET using CUE at a glance template, that is the weekly, daily chart template that we use to apply the checklists that I showed earlier, one for each of the 4 trade setups. 1 week ago, this was a cyan color candle. That is the starting point of seeing if there is a trend following long trade setup. Before that, price already made higher high and higher low. Then it gave me a cyan color candle. In fact, there was a cyan color candle here also. We could take the long trade using either of the cyan color candles. Using a go with flow trend following long trade setup, if we use the second cyan color candle, we would put stop here. If we use the first cyan color candle, we would put stop here below respective recent lows. And if we took the long trade using last Friday, 8th February trade setup, our profit target would be at the upper boundary, which was hit on Wednesday. We would book profit, at least partial profit, because earnings was nearby. This dot is showing that earnings was nearby. This is the earnings EPS amount. Because earnings was nearby in CUE technique for swing trading, we would not hold the entire position. One efficient way of trading it would be to buy the stock using Dr. Jeffrey's synthetic setup. That would be one approach. Not sure if you would use that, but we could buy it using Dr. Jeffrey's synthetic stock setup, probably with the protective put also, and on either Wednesday or Thursday, close the short put vertical, probably close some of the long call options also. We could do that in a way that we get entire investment money back and try to let profit run with the remaining position, and as the stock went up, we would have even bigger profit. That was ANET, but let me check and make sure that ANET in fact came, and it came because I prepared for the session. If I could run it properly, Arista network. 8th February, if we ran the scan on this day for the trend following long trade setup, we would find ANET. We would look at the chart as of that day and find the cyan color candle. The stock was already in an uptrend. The weekly was cyan. That was meeting all the checklist conditions. We would take the long position. We would be aware of the earnings. That is the technical analysis, bottom-up analysis. But we look for 360 degrees trades where we want the industry to be strong also or strengthening, that is showing acceleration, and fundamental also we want it to be strong. So why don't we look at that? I think the symbol was ANET.K. In Reuters, the symbols need a suffix sometimes. So I found it. Now I am using CUE Vital. Here I can check the fundamental and peer analysis of any stock in any country. It's a global product. The moment I entered the root stock, it is doing 3 passes. First, it found some detail about the stock. Then it found peer stocks based on the industry relationship, same industry. I could choose different relationship, similar industry, sector, country, or even global. And some filters on market cap, etc. In the third step, it calculated vital statistics for all of them, and I can look at them. This is A net. Valuation is overvalued because the stock already went up, but that is okay. In CUE technique, we look to buy a stock that is either a value stock, and that usually happens when the industry dropped for a while. When the industry is already going up for a while, we don't expect many value stocks, then we are going to look for high growth, earnings growth. And here we can see the earnings growth for all the last 3 quarters as well as all the last 3 years. They are all in bright green. So it is having fantastic and consistent growth year after year, as well as the last 3 quarters also. If we look at the revenue columns, the last year's revenue as well as the last 3 quarters revenue is also growing steadily. It has robust earnings quality. It even now has a short squeeze potential. Last 5 days, it has gone up by 16.6%. Therefore, if we took the long trade 1 week ago, 8 February, using trend following with flow long trade setup, we are already up by 16%. That is good. So we could in fact take the trade as a trend following long trade in a growth stock, high earnings growth, revenue growth. Last step we would like to check is the industry. ANET is in communications equipment industry. Its sector is information technology. So we could go to CUE Edge now. What we are seeing here is a view, but everything is calculated in real time in cache by getting the data from Reuters. If I click this download from cloud, it actually downloads from the cache. Let's look at the 5-day period. Information technology, it is strong, generally strong. This week it declined a little bit from the previous week, but we are looking for a trade 1 week ago in ANET. Let's drill down into information technology sector. Close down the recent periods. Usually I look at the 5-day period and communications equipment. It declined a little bit relative to other industries in the current week, but 1 week ago it was stronger. So if we ran the scan, that was a bottom-up analysis, ran the scan for trend following long trade on 8 February, we would find a net that gave a valid trade setup. We would check the fundamentals. It was a high growth stock. We would check the industry that was strong. That would be a CUE 360 degrees trade. That was our topic number 2. We found one trade from regional banks using top-down analysis, another stock from technology sector using bottom-up analysis. Let's now look at a possible day trade opportunity that we could find on this Friday. We have a technique to take a gap trade using intraday charts. And how we do that? TradeStation has this beautiful thing called radar. We call it sonar dashboard, but it's radar. We can drop a list of stocks in radar. We have several ready-made lists. You can use other lists also. I am dropping Dow Jones Industrial Average Components. You could drop any number of stocks, hundreds of stocks you can drop. It calculates a lot of analytics for all of the stocks. One of them is the gap column. If it has a significant gap, it will show up with some color, either green or magenta or cyan, something like that. And if there is a significant gap, we are going to look for a gap trade setup. And you can see among the Dow components, there was no gap trade setup. But I found one on Friday on this stock AXL. you can see the gap column is now lit up with color. So we know it is a significant gap. If it is a significant gap, then we are going to look for a trade either in the gap continuation direction or gap filling up direction. Other than the gap itself, which would have appeared in the morning session just after market open, we would also know that it also was breaking out, and the green color is showing that it was breaking out to the upside. I think the pressure came in the morning itself. Bullish pressure activity extreme might not have come in the morning. The direction was green, meaning the stock was already in an uptrend and it was already above the upper boundary level. Relative performance was strong. I think it was strong from the very morning. Now, when I drop a list of symbols on the radar, and in the morning session, I am looking for a gap trade. I look for the gap column to be lit up, cyan for bullish gap trade setup, maybe bearish depending on which direction the stock is moving. But after I locate it, I go to the intraday chart template. Our intraday chart template is not same as the swing trade template. Many other systems simply change the interval from daily to 5 minute, 1 minute or 10 minutes and use them for day trading or precision entry for swing trading. We don't do that. We have very different template for different tasks. For the intraday purpose, we use mostly pivot levels like these ones or trend lines. In this case, I cannot see any trend line. What is the gap trade setup? If price opens with a gap up, this was Friday's open, which was higher than Thursday's high. So it had opened with a gap up. Soon after that, the early range high and early range low lines form. The gap was significant. We knew that from radar. Now we are going to look for a trade in either long direction if it breaks out of the early range high, or short direction, which didn't happen if it breaks below early range low. We would take a long trade at the close of this candle. In fact, I'm using 10 minutes now. In real trading, for the morning session, I will use 5-minute interval. That is the guideline. And if I'm using this intraday chart template, fine-tuned chart template, in the afternoon session, I will use 10 minutes. Imagine it is 5 minutes. We'll use this candle's closing to enter the long trade. We will put stop just below the day's low. And we could book profit once the distance is covered. If the distance was never covered, we would book profit at the end of the day. That was the gap day trade setup. Sometimes if the gap day trade gives us significant profit and everything looks good on the weekly daily, we may book partial profit and then hold on to partial position. If you are trading stocks for the gap long day trade on AXL, you could probably close entire position, the stock position, and then use part of the profit to buy a call option, maybe monthly call option, thereby ensuring that it is 100% guaranteed profitable trade. That was a way to take a day trade using the precision entry, fine tune or intraday entry chart template. That was a gap day trade on AXL, found using radar, confirmed using the intraday chart template, and booked profit by Friday itself. It was a day trade. Next topic, CUE Vital, using the vital peer analysis of a stock that already went up to see if there is a buy opportunity in another stock. We just now saw that AXL went up and I mentioned it was a day trade. If it is a day trade, we are not going to look at its fundamentals or industry strength. It would not matter so much. But let us have a look at it now. Just for the sake of this topic that I made up, let us look at AXL, and you will see the moment I type the symbol, it is retrieving data, and it is quite fast, isn't it? So it is going to Thomson Reuters, calculating everything, retrieve data about AXL, retrieve the peers, and now calculated the vital statistics also. Some basic information I can see from here. It has positive earnings growth, no dividend. More detail I can see from the stock scorecard. Instantly from the color coding, I know it is a value stock because valuation is in cyan color. Earnings growth is not positive in the latest quarter. That is fine. We look for fundamentally strong stocks, again in two different ways, either a value stock or a growth stock, earnings growth. Usually we will not get both. Sometimes we get both, but not always. When I ran this peer analysis on AXL, I noticed there are other value stocks also. So let's have a look at them. ADNT is one of them. I already went through the others also, and let's look at the ADNT technical chart. ADNT, this is a stock I mentioned in the weekly market roundup. And it looked interesting to me. In the weekly, it is making a very nice base for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Earnings is over this week's, the week that just passed. Candle color and shape both are bullish in the weekly chart. I mentioned in the weekly market roundup, if it breaks out of the triangle pattern, gives us a low risk entry opportunity, that would be a buy point for ADNT. Another approach would be to wait for price to come to the memory support trend line and reverse from there. To make sure that it is a Q360-degree trade, not that you always have to take a trade in a strong industry, but it is always better to do that. We would also check out the industry. Let's do that. The industry was auto parts and equipment. Let's check the industry strength or weakness of it. Auto parts and equipment. I'll just filter it here. It is strong. Instantly I can see it was weak earlier, magenta color, but over 5 days it is strong. Therefore, we are happy to take a long trade in ADNT if it breaks out of the triangle pattern or if it comes to the memory support and reverses from there. In this case, we started with a trade that a stock that gave us a gap day trade on Friday, did a peer analysis and found a possible buy opportunity. Not there yet, but it may come soon in ADNT. Now let us look at the CUE insights. This is also a section in CUE Edge that we created based on feedback from Dr. Jeffrey. Here, in real time, by clicking this light bulb or the individual icons, we can gather the best performing stocks or worst performing stocks. Sometimes without any condition, best performing stock, all are liquid stocks, worst performing, or more complicated scans like best performing stocks with volume pressure, best performing growth stock, best performing optimally valued stocks. You can see AXL, the stock that we saw just now, came in this list. So you could look for AXL buying opportunity by using the insight also. In fact, BHLB, not sure if it is a company of Berkshire Hathaway, it also came in the insight. So you could look for BHLB from top-down analysis, bottom-up analysis. It would come as go through scan result, or you could find it from this also, from insights also. I will not go through BHLB, but I demonstrated that you could find the stock as a BHLB as a best performing optimally valued stocks from inside. Then you could click this button, for example, to check the industry. The industry was accelerating here. Then you could look at the stock and you would find it is a value stock. So you could find it from inside and look at its industry, fundamental, and finally technical, and buy the stock. Next topic. how to use the insight category of best performing stocks with volume pressure. Let's see what came on Friday. Best performing stocks with volume pressure. These are the stocks. And see, Arista Network came here. Arista Network gave us a long trade 1 week ago itself. So we were already booking profit by this week. Another stock that caught my attention from this category is IVC. It came to the top. That means it has the biggest bullish pressure. Not necessarily the percentage change in this list was the biggest, but it had the biggest bullish pressure. IVC in healthcare equipment. Let's look at the stock. I can click the peer analysis button. IVC, the valuation is medium, the earnings growth is rapid. So it is a growth stock, we can say. From the last quarter to this quarter, earnings is going up sharply. What about its industry? Industry is looking very good. So everything is in order as far as industry strength, fundamental strength is concerned. We would like to look at the stock now. IVC. IVC. On Thursday, it opened with a huge gap up that was associated with earnings. We could take it as a gap long trade on Thursday. And then on Friday, it went up further. In the weekly, it is looking very bullish. If you took the gap long trade on Thursday, you could book partial profit on Thursday and then hold on to partial position. We can see the pressure indicators were there on Thursday also, on Friday also. That means this stock appeared in the insight category, stocks moving up with high pressure on Thursday as well as Friday. Because we are regular traders, we would like to catch them early, so we would be able to take it on Thursday. The industry was strong and the fundamentals are also good in terms of growth. Regularly, I also share trade ideas in our traders forum. In healthcare equipment, I shared a recent trade idea on MDT, and you will see the analysis is strikingly similar. I will not go through the text. When I shared the trade idea, MDT, Medtronic, was looking like this. In the weekly, it had a bullish shape, bullish color candle. In the daily, it was going up. Price was supported by memory trend line support. We had a cyan color candle for a stock in an uptrend. That was a go with flow long trade setup. The industry, healthcare equipment, was strengthening. The base column showed that it was accelerating. The 5-day score was still not pure cyan, but it was accelerating. And MDT's fundamental scorecard showed that it was a value stock with increasing earnings growth. I took a long position. I booked partial profit already. It was using call option. I booked enough call options to get my money back. Why did I do that? Because earnings is coming tomorrow, 19th Feb. It was a swing trade. I didn't want to hold it through earnings, so I took my money back. My entry was on this candle. By last Friday, I had covered more than risk resistance. I got my money back by booking some lots of my call position. I am holding remaining call position, trying to let profit run. That was our topic for how to use the insight category. There are various categories. You can look for growth stocks, you can look for value stocks or high pressure stocks. Now we look at one regional bank, but regional bank has many stocks. Let's try to find some more stocks from the regional bank using CUE sonar. Before we do that, let's look at KRE, the regional bank's ETF. It displayed a bullish headwind at the very bottom, very nice of it. It displayed a bullish headwind in weekly and daily both. Since then, price is rapidly going up. It is going up without any pullback. So KRE is not giving us low risk entry opportunity because there was no pullback. We could probably take it using the headwind signal or the first cyan candle after the headwind signal. After that, it is overbought in weekly also. But KRE is an ETF. When KRE is not giving any low risk entry opportunity, there is no pullback. There may be stocks that are giving us low risk entry opportunities that pull back, or they are breaking out from the bottom like BHLB that we found. How do we find other possible buy trade setups? We could go to the industry, refresh, look for regional banks, drill down into it, get all the stocks. Because the industry was weak earlier, we are going to look for value stocks. We have this many stocks. We can get them to radar. Drop them and see if there is any buying opportunity. And now we are going to use the other radar columns. 4 of them are for trade setups. The bound setup for existing condition, box for sideways market, headwind for reversal, go with flow for long trade. You can see BHLB came here also. So you could find BHLB on Friday from bottom up analysis using this radar. You could find it from inside best performing value stocks, or you could find from top down analysis starting from sector strength analysis. I see there are several other stocks that are giving possible go with flow, that is trend following long trade setup. Some of them have additional bullish signal. If I have too many stocks in a particular trade setup, I may look for those with additional signals. And let's look at some of them. I'm looking at my note on the other terminal also. Let's look at RF, HAFC, and OZK. RF went up by 3.2% on Friday. Let's look at the chart. RF is getting ready for a buy setup, but it is inside the triangle pattern. I will wait for it to break out of this memory resistance, but weekly is looking good, daily is looking good. RF is not ready yet, but may be ready soon. Next one, I would like to look at HAFC, went up by 3.5% on Friday. This is looking good. Weekly is bullish. Incidentally, weekly went up straight after displaying the bullish headwind signal. In daily, it is in an uptrend. On Friday, we had a cyan color candle breaking out of the watermark resistance with high activity. If we buy it on Friday, our stop would be just below the recent low, which would be below this memory trend line support. We could try to book partial profit at the declining white direction line. This one is looking good. And the other one I found is OZK. Went up by 3.4% on Friday. This also has a very similar pattern. Weekly is looking good. Daily just broke out of the triangle pattern. You could consider buying either of them if it matches your trading style. The stop in this case would be just below this memory support line. This is an example. It is similar to how we started with AXL and found ADNT. ADNT is not ready yet. In this case, we started with BHLB and then looked at its industry. The industry was weak earlier, so we looked at value stocks, dropped them in CUE sonar. We found several trend following long trades. We could go through all of them, and we found one of them may be ready soon, and that was RF, and two that just broke out, that is OZK and HAFC. Here, this one. So we found these two stocks from CUE sonar. The radar is extremely useful. I could find the same stocks by running the CUE go with flow scan also. Interesting, the scan can be run only after market close, whereas the radar can be run in real time. Now, energy stocks. Energy went up very strongly last week, and I found some tradable opportunities. Let's look at some more. I'm going to delete this. Let's start with sector. This week was very strong. All the 11 sectors went up for the week as well as on Friday, very strong. And energy was the strongest. Over last 5 days, it is the best performer. On Friday also, it is the best performer. So using our top-down approach, we would certainly look for bullish opportunities. We can go to the sector tab and we can see over 5 days, energy is the best performer. However, in the previous period, it was the worst performer. That is also showing up as acceleration over 5 days. On Friday also, it is the best performer. In fact, over 5, 2-day and 1-day periods, all the 3 recent periods, it is the best performer. So certainly we would like to drill down and we'll find several industries. Many of them are turning around from weakness to strength, and some of them are holding on to the strength consistently. So we may focus more on oil and gas exploration and production, oil and gas drilling, and maybe this one, oil and gas equipment and services, if we are looking at them on Friday. But it is working in real time, so we could start to look at the other industries during the week. Now we could look at a specific industry. However, we don't need to do that because the energy sector as a whole is very strong. When I filtered for the energy sector, the stock tab already gave me all the energy sector stocks in all the industries, all the liquid stocks. The energy sector was weak. When that happens, I may look for value stocks. I found these few stocks. Again, I will simply select them, drop them in CUE sonar, that is the radar, and look for long trade setup. Here, I didn't go to the industry in the beginning. I'm going to technical analysis directly from the sector level. We found the value stocks, so these are already fundamentally strong, at least in terms of value. And now I can see they are lighting up. Some are giving me trend following long trade setup. That is the go with flow column. And I already did my homework. So let's look at GPOR and EXTN. GPOR is at the top, went up by 4.3%. Why I selected this? Because it not only gave me a trend following long trade setup, but it also broke out. That is shown by the breakout column. GPOR, if I look at the technical chart, now I see the weekly is cyan, that is meeting the requirement for a trend following long trade setup. In daily, we have a higher low. Price was below the memory resistance, trend line resistance. On Friday, it broke out with a cyan color candle. So we could take a long trade at the close of Friday, put stop just below recent low, try to book profit at the memory resistance line. That was a trade in the energy sector, GPOR. But using 360 technique, we would like to ensure that its industry is strong. We saw it is already a value stock. So let's go back to GPOR. Now I can click the peer analysis button. It will retrieve the stocks in that industry, which happens to be oil and gas exploration. And it would also select the industry. Instantly from the color coding, I can see the industry is very strong. So we have now got another 360-degree long trade where the industry is strong. Fundamentally, it's a value stock. Technically, it is breaking out after giving a higher low. That could be a trend following long trade setup. The other one I wanted to look at is EXTN. This is also looking good. In the weekly, it created a double bottom, created a false downside breakout. This week's color and shape both are very bullish. In daily, it displayed a possible reversal signal, bullish headwind signal, then went up, and now it broke out. It is not a trend following long trade because it is not in an uptrend, but it broke out. You could consider taking it as a breakout trade. I'm not fond of breakout trades, but if you are into breakout trades, the best way in my view to take them is when it breaks out of the robust resistance, trendline resistance, not breaking out of the watermark level. Some people take it after the breakout of this level, which is identified by watermark, but in my observation, that is a bit late. I would prefer to buy here, book some profit here, and try to let profit run on the remaining position. However, styles may differ. We found this as a breakout opportunity from radar. Let me look at EXTN is there. Yes, it is giving us a breakout opportunity, no go with flow opportunity, and it also has high pressure. So it has something going for it other than the breakout. The pressure was shown by this cross. What is the industry of EXTN? Let's make sure that its industry is strong as well. EXTN. Is it in the same list? No. So we could refresh the stock list. Search for EXTN. It's a value stock. In fact, it is one of the cases where it has very nice earnings growth also. It has good earnings quality, short squeeze potential, earnings is nearby, but enough distance away for taking a swing trade. And if I click the peer analysis, it will find stocks from that industry, but I am more interested in the industry itself, which is looking good. So in this case, we could find several trading opportunities starting from the sector level. Didn't look at industry, directly went to the stocks, found value stocks, looked at them through radar, found some trend following and some breakout opportunities, confirmed them through the charts, and then went back to CUE Edge to confirm that their industries were strong. Same 360-degree trades found out in many different ways. One bonus topic I added after I shared the list of topics in the Discord forum is about the headwind signal. It helps a lot in protecting profit and also taking a reversal trade. Market is very bullish. So I wanted to see, is there any stock that is giving a bearish headwind that we could consider? Maybe not to take a short trade, but be careful about the long trades. And I ran, how I found them, let me explain. I went to the scan, ran for weekly headwind bearish, and I also ran the scan for, I could see there were 3 stocks in that list, HCP, NNN, OHI. And I also ran the scan for short headwind, and that gave me a series of stocks. I have done my homework, so I will just look at few of them to save your time. One is HCP. And you will see how I'm using the headwind signal. It gave a weekly headwind signal. This week was earnings week. We have a yellow color candle, color change from backdrop color, weekly chart, change from cyan bullish to yellow neutral, shape became indecisive, gave a bearish headwind signal. In the daily chart, it has a memory resistance. It tried to go up and came down. This is not looking very strong. I'm not going to short it yet, but if it starts to go down, there may be a shorting opportunity. At minimum, if I have a long trade, I will be careful about this stock. I'll protect profit or book profit. Incidentally, it went up after displaying a bullish headwind. The other one is HTLD. Here, I can see it came to the memory resistance in weekly. The week ended with a gain, but it has an upper tail. In daily, it came to multiple tops, multi-tops, watermark resistance level. There was a bearish headwind earlier, that was earnings day. Now it has displayed another bearish headwind, that is a false upside breakout. There is a memory support, so I'm not going to short it, but if I have a long position, I will be careful. Last stock that I will look at is JLL. That is also displaying bearish headwind. It came to a long-term memory resistance. Incidentally, it displayed a bearish headwind at the very top, bullish headwinds at the very bottom in the weekly chart, bullish headwind at the very bottom in the daily chart. All of them worked beautifully. Now it has displayed a bearish headwind in the daily chart at a memory resistance in daily, memory resistance in weekly. If I'm holding a long position, I'll be careful. It is in real estate sector, which went up this week. Everything went up. However, this is one of the weaker sectors. Let's look at JLL's fundamentals also. If it is a weak fundamental stock, industry is weak, you may look for a shorting opportunity. Not JLL, right? JLL. Let me make sure the exact symbol, JLL. Yes. Okay, if it is taking time, I may go to Q edge, look for JLL. JLL, it is fundamentally not weak. The valuation is medium. Earnings growth slowed down. Still green, but slowed down. By the way, we have added these icons. I'll come back to them shortly. Let me do a peer analysis to look at the industry. So I click the peer analysis button that found its peer stocks and also located the industry. The industry was stronger earlier, weakened now, and the pace columns are showing some deceleration. The technical chart is looking weak. If I'm holding a long position, I would consider booking at least partial profit and may look for a short opportunity. I will not go through the forum posts. That was the last topic. However, you may go to our forum, this address, or you could go to the home page. Click on the forum, that will take you to the forum where I regularly share stock analysis, the same 360 degrees analysis covering industry, fundamental and technical. They often end up better, about 5 to 10% better, I would say, than if I looked at only technical charts. I think I took a lot of time. I went pretty fast. The recording would be there. If you have any question, you can always contact me. I'm quite responsive, and my email ID is sagar@superiorprofit.co. That is all that I planned to share. It went longer than Jeffrey would allow me. I didn't look at the chat to see if he's asking me to stop. Sorry about that, Jeffrey.
That's okay. I always learn from you. If anybody has any questions, do I need to be a TradeStation user to chart the stocks using your charting software? I'll answer it because I know the answer. The platform works in TradeStation and Metastock. TradeStation, the platform is essentially free, small. I'm not even sure how big you have to put in to get live data, but they give you Radar Station and the platform pretty much for free now. Metastock, depending upon the package you might use, could be anywhere from $400 to $500 a year to $1,500 to $2,000 on the real time. I talked a little about Metastock last time. There are some clear advantages to Metastock. The way the copy protection works, a lot of folks will put some of their own high-end stuff into Metastock that they don't do elsewhere because it's protected. And that's something that we're going to try and bring into HGSI by allowing folks like Sagar and others who might be interested, I'm not promising anything or committing anybody, to actually create add-ons for HGSI, but they'll be at a price because you're not going to get folks to come in without that. So I'm going to pull back the screen, go back to my main screen, and hopefully, all right, it looks like that's still working. And are we still recording? That's the next thing. Yep, we're still recording. Sagar, that was great. As I said, I always learn from you. I appreciate you coming on. If you have any kind of special or anything for them to try anything, I'll be more than happy to forward it to them unless you have any comments about it now or anything. I know we had talked about perhaps a demo or something like that. I'm putting you on the spot. Hopefully I didn't make it so you can't talk. Oh, I am. Oh, hold on. All right, you're unmuted now, Sagar. I'm sorry.
Yes. Hi. Yes. Jeff, I love Jeffrey. He said he may be a crazy person, but he's a great person. And for everybody that is associated with Jeffrey in any way, we have set up a special promotion to try the system out. You may go to the website and Jeffrey could show the website, please.
Yep.
Under store, www.superiorprofit.co, and under store there is a event promotion that is for anybody that is associated with Jeffrey, and there is it under event offer.
Oh, event offer. I'm sorry. Event offer. Yep.
We are offering a very special package for everybody that is associated with Jeffrey. We are not charging anything for the 3 months. Just need to pay for what Metastock charges, and they have a promotion: buy for 1 month, get for 3 months. So you just need to pay for 150 USD. You will be able to run CUE Elite Vital Edge for 3 months. If you also want to try Metastock at the same time, you can pay $250. All that money will go to Metastock. You may use it for learning and seeing if CUE system, the Intertechnique is for you. That is the special offer.
Perfect.
This is for all people coming from Jeffrey's side.
All right. Well, thank you, Sagar. As I said, I always learn. I think your tools are unique. And believe me, I know because those who know me know how many tools I already own. And I have found your tools to be very useful. Just to give folks an idea, when I'm not going to probably be asking for it. I don't want that one. I want to go into, just to give you an idea, I really have way too many things. And I'm finding that I can now set up my computers a lot easier because I don't need everything that I had before. Just to give you an idea of how many, I've been doing this for a long time, and this was probably a mistake. It's going to take a while. I have a lot of different indicator sets. At this point of my life, what I end up using, I use a lot of John Person stuff, but there's a lot of John Person stuff, but I use the CUE. I mean, I've got Hawkeye and a lot of other stuff, but it's really the CUE and the John Persons that you'll see me using on my platform, and we may look at that. I want to do a real quick top-downs review. I promised folks, and since I didn't record one the last weekend, and God only knows, I think I should go do one this weekend. And then I get to go to Asia for 3 weeks and take a vacation, and there's probably not much likelihood that I'm going to do one when I'm in Asia. So I'm going to very quickly, let's just take a look. Now, last time I pointed out that I now have 25 group items in the Major Markets Plus. Mine will look a little bit different than perhaps Ron Brown's. I've added 2 things. I added a long time ago, I added the Russell because it had come out, so there should be somewhere RUT should be in here, or IWM rather. And then the other thing I added was the IBD 50 fund because that's something that closely reflects the world that I play in. If we look at Friday's close, I think everybody knows the market really ended up on a strong point. Small caps in the Russell, the Dow, the mid caps, the NYSE, and the NASDAQ all leading. So if you trade like I do and you trade small cap growth stocks, I would hope that you, like I, had a pretty damn good week. And if you remember when we did the thing on Tuesday night, I think it was a plus 100K day for me. We had a couple of soft days. We finished strong. but it was a very good week, a very good week indeed. If I look at the market, and you know, I mentioned earlier that Sagar's weekend report said something about oversold and overbought rather. Well, we are overbought. Look at this run that we've had. This is the S&P 500, the cash markets, and I always like with HGSI, if I just open up the toolbar, make sure I got a line there, a line there, a line there, and green color. I'm going to connect the dots, and I'm just going to use that as the low, take it up to the closing high, and we've had an 18.5% move in 35 days on the S&P 500. That's not what one would expect. That's a pretty big move. We've had a couple, now I'll make it an arrow, little, 3-day pullbacks here a couple of times, maybe 3 times, but this has been a pretty straight shot. At some point, this is going to get tired. It's certainly not a high jump, and I won't even talk about it up here because it's only above, the 200 the price is above all the indicators, but the 1750 are still lagging. So we're not extended in the big picture, but we've had a very fast run in a short period of time. I don't care what I put up here. They all look the same, so there's no reason to go through everything. Notice it's hard to see, but the NASDAQ, let's just open up the one here that shows the data window. It closed at 74.7241. The 200's at 74. That's the crossover. Hold on a second. Is that? Yeah, 74.65. So technically, we are now above 100 on 500 on the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones Industrials, which looks a lot like the S&P, even stronger, just very small, modest pullbacks as we've moved up this market. And then the only one that's lagging, and lagging would be a large word for maybe not a lot of news, is down here where the Russell, which was the hardest hit prior to the recovery, has had a whopping 25% over the same 35 periods. So I think everybody and their that I've heard, and I don't listen to that many people, and I have quite a few videos I like to watch, but I don't watch them until after I've done my recording. So since I do a recording, I'll be watching them on the plane tomorrow. Everybody keeps saying we're going to pull back. That makes sense. I always talk about, from what I learned from Ian, the 3-road scenario. Do we go straight up to infinity and beyond? Hard for me to believe that right now. Do we go back and retest these lows? That would be a killer, to be honest with you. We've had such a big move. But I really have thought at some point we're going to be doing this kind of action here. And, eventually, hopefully bouncing off the 200. And then you got the risk. Do you ultimately break down, or do you ultimately go out and break out to new highs later? I'll take that scenario, but I'd like to see us go sideways, and eventually this market's going to give some of it back. When I was looking earlier, I haven't looked since I started listening to Sagar. It looked like the dollar was weakening again tomorrow, at least early on. And I've been a big proponent of saying the weak dollar is good for the market. May or may not be great for the country, but from a market perspective, it's good. I think part of Friday's gains was the fact that the market was weak. And if you follow John Person, that's actually a low close doji occurring here, which is a reversal signal. If those that were here last week, I started talking about what I'm looking for to tell me that there's a reversal. And I'm looking for dojis. I'm looking for these spinning tops, which have occurred at tops and bottoms. And, what did we have on Friday? We had 2 out of 3 days, even 3 out of 3 days with spinning tops and dojis. These are signals that look to me like they're getting tired. We've seen that before, and the market just takes right off based upon news. And obviously, big news going on right now is we've got China, which things seem to be thawing. The Fed, which seems to be warming to helping us by giving us that Fed put and perhaps slowing down their cadence. We didn't have another shutdown, which is good for the market. At the same time, we still got a lot of craziness in government. We still have the far left wanting to tax us to death, and and Trump building his wall, and somewhere in between is probably in the middle where most of us reside. The VIX has finally broken down below its 200-day moving average. It's still not down to where it was, but it's getting closer. That probably shows some complacency in the market. And then very quickly, if I can find gold, which is obviously in front of my nose, gold with a weak dollar set to break out again. I have a GLD position, a little position, and I've got a couple of junior gold stocks. They've been working, but when you look at gold on a long-term basis, it's just getting back to its 2018 highs. It's not even there yet. So those who've been long gold since then, you're almost back to break even, which means that's probably when you'll sell. Silver, not quite as strong as gold, and gold miners looks a lot like gold and pull back to the 17 and look like they want to go higher. That's how I always start my evaluation. The second thing I like to look at is some of the industry groups. Now, when I updated Ron Brown's add-on, the industry group thing dropped off. Now, I signed up for his current educational session, so I'm sure I'll figure it out then of what he did with it. But 07, I just copied it and saved it, and when I upgraded it on a machine after I saw I lost it, I just copied it over. And those who know me, I like to start by saying we got 173 groups. If we look at 2-day up, we had 84 on Friday, 5-day up, also about 84 if I remember correctly. Come on, don't lock up on me now. 85. If we look at to the downside, we had 4. Internet media, change index group. These are, you look down here, obviously Yandex, the Russian web-based provider, website got, or whatever you call it, search engine and Explorer replacement was down big. But when you look at over 5 days, look at Google, it's up, had big move on earnings, I believe. So even the worst group, internet media, was the worst group on Friday on a good day, but over a 5-day period of time, pretty good week. Renewable energy, I'll try that again. Well, I got too many things open, that's pretty sure, certain. You could see some of the solar stocks, which had been strong, had a significant sell-off. Even this DQ, which got hammered down 12.5, was only down 0.75 on the week. So despite a hard Friday, these had a pretty good week. Courier services, I think that Amazon, I thought it would be XPO Logistics would be here because they announced that they're changing. If Amazon goes fully to their own delivery system, that's going to pressure this group. UPS, again, a weekday in a setting of a super strong market, not so weak, and look at the 5-day move. So I look at these, and I don't see a whole lot of horrible things. And even the weakest of the airlines, when you look at it over 5 days, they're up 1% for Alaska, and pretty much even the weak ones were neutral. If I look at a longer term down, a few other things pop up. Casinos, Macau has not been super strong, and that's hurt some of the casinos, specialty apparel, department stores. Well, let's go look at 2-day up and see if we can get an idea from a top-down perspective of anywhere we might want to be. Now, what did Sagar's group that he talked about? He talked about, thanks, Mike, so we moved it around. Well, I know it's been up there, but for whatever reason, we had pulled it down here. So under group 7, we got exploration. Under industry groups, we had exploration and production, change to industry group. And, these have very similar patterns. You can see a group that's been beaten up, but you look at something like Encana, it had a PSAR reversal. You have that little green dot. You've got 2 kahunas in 3 days, a big volume on the day between, a mobile breakout, and your weekly bongo turned green. One thing that I'm going to pay more attention to is this thing here called demand supply. Those that follow the Northern California investors.com board, there was a lot of discussion about tandem and the demand supply. This looks at the 50-day moving average of volume, and I guess demand would be when people are accumulating, buying the stock, but demand over 2% is something to pay attention to. So there's clearly buying of Encana. Marathon Oil, 1.2% dividend, similar chart pattern, volume coming in, kahunas, pocket pivots, and in a downtrend, sideways and now starting to break out. EOG, they all look the same. So let's just go to Encana, and I'm going to do something you should never do, which is do something where you don't know the answer already when you're doing a webinar. So let's just dump ECA, oh, come on, maybe, into CUE. Now I've got a few things. This is an older version. I've been playing with the new version. I haven't switched to it yet. You'll notice my arrows, those are John Person arrows. So it's been in John called the downtrend up here. Notice the auto populated trend lines failed at the trend line. John called a buy signal there. You have a go with flow long as it's got higher highs, higher lows. A new short signal from John. And what do you have here? You've got a bullish headwind and a go with flow signal here and a reversal. So this is on the weekly, looks good. And you can see you've got a new buy signal from John with the go flow. Now, as much as I pay attention to Sagar, I see all this stuff here, and that's resistance. But I look at the weekly, and it looks pretty damn clear. And I think considering how far the stock has dropped, I probably would be interested in this, even with some short-term resistance above it. And I also note that at a lot of these reversals, you see big volume coming in, and you see it there on the weekly and the daily. So I kind of like it when there's some concordance between the different systems that I look at. So there's some things to like there. Communications equipments, well, there you go. Arista Network, we were just looking at that. The challenge with Arista Network, for me, is how do I buy this after this big move? Well, there's a way to buy it if you think this thing is going to go higher. And Sagar looked at it with his stuff. Let me just bring it over here, and with a typical way, and I want to come back to this in a few minutes anyways. This thing has had a huge run, and it's a Bible gap up. And for those folks who follow Morales and Casher, there are rules about how you can buy stocks from a Bible gap up. You would not be wrong under their world to say, the multiples 22, 24 of growth rates. Kramer used to say you can buy something up to twice a PE, twice the growth rate. So you're within that range on the ANET. It's got revenue growth, 327 all the way up to 563. That's good to see. It trades not a lot, 877,000, but for a $300 stock, that's a lot. Doesn't pay a dividend. And so what you could do is say, I'm interested in owning this. This is just how I would play it, is I might put a buy stop. I would probably put my buy stop a little bit above where it closed, and I would not let it go much below the low of the day. And if you read Morales and Catcher, they would allow you to buy this stock. And if it truly behaves as a Bible gap up, they usually call porosity, so they give a few nickels below the low of that day. But as long as it stays above that day, you're okay to own it. You can look back here. This might be worrisome, where I've got a Bible gap up right there. And what did it do from the Bible gap up? It just traded down. So I'm not sure if I can go chasing it. I'm not sure if it's on my buy list. We'll take a look when we get there. Cisco Systems, this is an old stodgy horse, and it's actually breaking out here. So weekly, a nice pullback, a breakout on the weekly. This is the kind of stock that I often play around with. I probably wouldn't play with this one, just it's an old name, but it does have good earnings per share growth compared to the multiple and pays a dividend. So I typically, as you know, would go through and look at everything that's above the industry group. We know that Sagar started by looking at applied material. So we'll get down to those, but how about semiconductors? NVIDIA is interesting. My son has a position in it, and its earnings were horrible, but it turns out they weren't as horrible as they thought they would be. And it's interesting, and that's kind of where people often get burned on earnings. I look at this, and this would be that quarter we're talking about, and there's a huge deceleration in earnings. There's a deceleration in sales, and they laid an egg. But the good news was, if you own NVIDIA, they ate the egg they laid was not as bad as the market projected. It's under demand. Just hard for me to believe with almost all their segments losing momentum that we're going to regain that. And so often the leaders of yesterday are not the leaders of tomorrow. AMD, I've liked it off of, well, frankly, back here I started talking about it. I still like it. Nice little bullish wedge, and maybe it's going to run again. Intel breaking out above the 200, not much in the way of earnings per share growth. But I think, as we've all learned, sometimes it's not the number of growth, it's whether or not they make the number that Wall Street's already priced in. And Micron, despite me saying I hate playing this with this massively slowing growth and then commenting that these things actually usually go up before their earnings turn around, and lo and behold, it's had a big move off the bottom, and it's under demand. So clearly within this group, Silence has been a big leader. Here's a Bible gap up that worked. This was a stock that you may have said, oh, I can't chase this, it's gone too far. But had you set your buy down here, your stop down there, actually let me do that a little neater. You hold the point, hold the shift, you get a straight line, and then one more time, you got to take your finger off the mouse before you take it off the shift. All right, that could have been my stop. I could have argued to put my buy there, and you'd have had a nice move off of that. So that's no different than I'm looking at ANET. I'm looking for things, Lattice Semiconductor, another viable gap up. Look at the earnings per share growth compared to the multiple. I've learned that not all markets care about earnings, but I've always been a sucker for earnings. When I see earnings per share growth in the hundreds on a turnaround play and a multiple of only 50, I won't tell you what I get because there might be some ladies on this call. And I go through and see if anything else comes out and hits me. I do this top-down review every night of the week. And if you watch my webinars, you've heard me talk about a lot of these. Electronic Arts screwed the pooch on earnings and comes roaring back. I mean, these are the things that drive you nuts because the individual guys got stopped out. That was a big move here on SSNC. I don't know this company whatsoever. Let's really quickly look at it on a weekly chart. Look, uptrend pullback and a breakout. Kahuna on the weekly, lots of weekly pocket pivots. Back to the daily. I mean, it's moving, but when I see earnings per share growth like this and a multiple, I start to get excited. So that's one that I'd probably put on my watch list. Paycom, how many times did I talk about this? Right back here. And this thing just broke out and kept on going. A Bible gap up on earnings, and it's still just broken out above the top of the Bible gap up day. This is not a candle. This is not a candle that stimulates a lot of enthusiasm, but it still broke through and got above the top of that candle. Paycom made me a lot of money into it. Workaday. We have a series of application software stocks that are in nice uptrends. Let's look at a weekly. You can see a nice move up here since November. Here is that December nastiness. The challenge with a lot of these is great revenue growth, and they don't make any money, but that's what's working right now. You can look just the index of application software. So I'm going to spare you all 10 of these, but I do want to look at a couple more. Specialty pharma, the marijuana story has been hot, and Canopy Growth, in my mind, is probably one of the least bad names. I think you've got to be careful. I'm not a huge believer in some of the little small guys. Zoetis is a veterinarian stock. Kronos is the one that I like. This is the one that I believe got the Altria investment around when it was around 12. And it's doing very well. If you're looking to get in, perhaps this is giving you another bite at the apple. It has some revenue, but these are millions, very little revenue, lots of volume, and there's clearly a story here. Whether the story plays good or bad, think Bitcoin. Afria, another one with no revenue, high multiple. Garden Health is actually, I don't know why it's in specialty pharmacy. They do molecular testing from blood. That's sort of a wrong place. I've been watching and nibbling on Ironwood. I'd like to see it get above its 200, but you have a sandwich of kahunas, bunch of mobile breakouts coming out of a squeeze. That one looked interesting. Anything else that I liked here? Short term, I'm looking at, nope. That was specialty pharma. Big banks and little banks are starting to look interesting. Sagar talked about them, so I'm not going to go back and look at them. Biotech, these are ones that have lots of name risk based upon earnings and data that comes out. But when biotech works, they work. They got through the State of the Union without getting destroyed. This is one of the generals, Biogen IDEC. It had some bad news on a patent on its MS drug, and it rebounded relatively quickly. It's got accelerated earnings more than its PE. Maybe you could say it's cheap. It's been sideways, though, for quite some time. Gilead, another general, has a revenue problem because they peaked early on, and they have to figure out a way to replace its growth in Hep C. Regeneron, another general. This one has increasing revenue, earnings per share growth. Unlike the others, had a big run up, pull back, and looks like it's ready to go again. Mobile breakout from a squeeze, pocket pivot and a kahuna. Array I've talked about before. If you believe biotech's going up, I like playing LABU. And it doesn't look like much here because this is from 27 to 54. But that's a double since the end of December in LABU. LABD is the opposite story. And you don't want to be in biotech bears until the biotech has given up its rally. Back. The diversified banks had a big move on Friday, 2.5%, 3% on the big three. I maintain a significant holding in Bank of America. And I keep hearing how banks are bad, banks are bad, banks are bad. If somebody showed me this and said nearly 2% dividend yield, makes money, pocket pivot, kahuna, mobile breakout, weekly bond goes green, I might be bullish this. This is a high close doji. But I think the dollar weakness, and if the economy is slowing down, may pressure the banks. But I'm still long, as I said, the diversified banks. As always, I also do a bottoms-up review. Last time, I just wanted to show you what got me so excited out of EdgeRater is this new Mark Minervini template. So let me just, this is one you can read here what's in it. Hopefully you've read his books. He's got a second book. I find them to be excellent, and they added to my library of things that I think are worthwhile reading. So what I've been doing every night, and I'm not sure every night is necessary because they don't change that frequently, is I am generating this scan Also, for those who are asking themselves, can I do this in HGSI? I don't think so today. It can be done in HGSI, but it would require you to have a variable on both sides of the greater than. You can have a variable on the left, but I'm not sure the coding today would allow you to say the 150 is above the 200. I think George has seen this and mentioned to me that he's going to come up with a scan related to this, but it will probably need to be hard-coded, soft-coded, Shamil Shlamazel. That's good with me. And what I've been doing is I've been taking this template, looking for those that were all true, and getting like 180 or so, 199. And then I've actually done a couple things with this list. I'm putting it into HGSI. I don't know if it's in this one because this isn't my usual computer use, but I put it into my regular HGSI. But what I'm really doing is I'm putting it into TradeStation, and then I'm going into my scanner. All right, guys, come on, don't get mad at me. Here, there's my scanner. And then I basically can run a scan every night, updating the stocks there and looking at which Minervini stocks are breaking out. So I've seen VCYT on several of these looks. There's Bank of America. Gotta love that since I was just talking about it. I see Chug, I see CDNA, and I see VCYT. So I might start looking at these in HGSI. So I might pull up and see if any of these look like they're ripe for buying. So I already own Chug, CHG, and another diversified, consumer discretionary stock, nice uptrend, little bit of a pullback. Is this giving me a flag? And will I get 60 to 75% of the move from here to here? So that's one that looks interesting. CDNA, here, DX. Thought for a while that I might compete with these, but they provide services to different type of services to payers. Uptrend weekly, sideways. Is it breaking out of its sideways thing? We'll go look at that one on some of the CUE tools. What was the other one I liked? VCYT I liked. But I'll look at the ones that I got new buy signals. And this is a pattern that I can live with. Pull back to support. I might, if I wanted to trade Verisight, I'm not saying I do. I would have rather trade it down here. That's where I like to trade. Much more risky up here. I might be doing things like setting a buy stop above the PSAR, recording your PSAR reversal to get in, and setting my sell stop right underneath the low of the day and not giving it a whole lot of room because that stock is extended. Let's look at VCYT and CDNA and Chug in the CUE tools. All right, I got to get this thing to go. I don't know if you can see that, but it's in the way. All right, so let me play with this a little bit. All right. I'm going to have to pull that up a little. There it is. Play games with me. There it is. So it was Chug, CDNA, and VCYT. So CDNA, this is fun. Here you have a stock traded down to support, had a John Person buy signal. This is a go with flow. I'm bothered by it so close to resistance. That might temper me a little bit. Chug. This one's breaking out to new highs. I like that with a new person buy signal. I already said I'm in it, so and then VCYT, it's running right up to resistance. So I probably might be tempered on some of those. Chug looked the best to me. So I typically do that. When I did my analysis this week, I ended up with a number of stocks that I was interested in. Well, a lot of stocks. Not all of them. Weibo is sort of a pet in that I made a lot of money on it once, and so I'm always following it. But if I just take a look at where I found these stocks from an industry group perspective. Application software, we looked at Paycom as one. I like some of the other banks, not just the ones that we saw. Array, Viking, it looks to me like it's at an interesting buy point. Why did I like this? OBV is picking up. Skip this. This is more like my tandem, roll the dice and get lucky. There's Aristanet. Sienna's been a big leader in the communications equipment. Exploration and production. I think I remember CRD, the California Research Development, popped up. Two kahunas, pocket pivot, mobile breakout from a squeeze. Great earnings per share growth. And look at the demand supply, 4.7. Like that one. I'm just trying to see if anything else jumped out. You know, all of you who watch me should be sending me money. I'm joking. I don't want your money. But I don't know if any of you were around. But the funniest thing is one of my money managers came up to me and was all excited because he got into Tandem back here in April, on that day, April 9th, and bought me a bunch of Tandem at $6 and bought all of his people $6 at $6. And I thought that was kind of peculiar because I had done a webinar that weekend and presented it at Orange County. Turns out he watched my webinar. And actually, I was talking to his boss. But this thing had a great move. And I started talking about it again a few weeks ago. It's running again. It's had a move from 30 up to 50 since the market bottomed. And I think Tandem goes higher. I have a pretty significant position here, and I like it. You know, I went very quickly through that Viking and moved on. But I often study the stock of what got me excited. And part of the problem here is 3 to 30 is a 10 times delta, and it's just compressed. You can't even see how exciting that stock is. But when I looked at it in over here, and this is going to be it. My wife just got home, so she's going to wonder why I'm still on the phone at 10 o'clock, and you have wives and husbands too. But this is a stock. Let's see if I go back far enough. It actually was moving from $2. So even though I looked smart when I gave it at $6, this stock, when you start to play a little bit with the vertical axis, here's it at 260 running up to 340. OBV breakouts. All right, here is at in March, another breakout. So, you know, I like to think I'm smart sometimes, but I was late on the game. This was the time to buy. Here, that was March 26 when you could have bought it for 316. It had already doubled twice by the time I came out with my buy signal, which would have been on this day. And, you know, sometimes you got to be careful with any charting platform and HGSI too, because when you're down here, when you have the 200-day moving average up here, you are really compressed. And that could have caused me to miss it. That's what I saw it on the other platform. So on that note, I'll see if there's any questions. This will be posted. Thank you for Sagar. I thought that was excellent. I got a lot of positive feedback. He mentioned his special offer on the website, superiorprofit.co. Go into the store event offer. And it's funny how many times he talked about my my option play. Last week I talked about INOV and then I'm going to say goodbye after this one. And I think it was INOV. Inovalon. And one of the feedback I got was somebody wanted me to talk more about when I take the trade and how I take the trade. And it broke out. And the way my trade was constructed, I was up at 1.45% on the trade. I closed out the short side and some of my long side. I gave back some on the long side that I held on. but I'm still very optimistic about this trade. This is a trade from last week. On that note, thank you so much for attending. This has been a long one, but I got to listen to. The recording will be up tonight or tomorrow. Safe travels to me and everybody else in the air tomorrow, and have a good week trading. And I'm all curious as you are, how are the futures doing? And the NASDAQ futures are up 1750. I'll take it. Good night, everybody.